Hello everyone, welcome. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a simple chat system using Fish networking. So to get started, I have created an empty Unity project, imported Fish networking, created some helper scripts, and a new scene. In this scene, I have added two objects, one the main camera, and the second one is called the Network Manager. The Network Manager game object has three components: the Network Manager component with the default configuration, the Player Spawner component with the Player game object as its player prefab, and the player prefab here is just an empty game object with a network object component. Then I have a custom component called HUD. So I'm going to open up the HUD script and let's explore it together. So the HUD script is basically just using IMGUI to display buttons that allow us to host and join servers, okay, with a field called username that allows us to enter a username for our player, and then when we host or join, it stores this field in using player prefs. Now let's go to our player class or script, and it is pretty straightforward as well, just a sync var called username that is private and serialized, and here we override the onStartClient method and check if we are not the owners, then we return. Then we have a server RPC here, which takes in the stored username and player prefs and sends it across the network to update our sync var here. Pretty straightforward. Then I have a message class here, which basically contains the data of our message, a timestamp, a sender name or string, and a content, which is also a string. Now let's go ahead and go inside Unity, select our player game object or prefab, add our player component, and you can see that the username is empty. Let's leave it like this, clear our console, and let's go ahead and right-click scripts folder and create a new component called chat. Let's open it in Writer, remove the default code, and derive from network behavior. Now, our chat class here is going to have a private read-only sync list with message as its generic type parameter, and it's going to be called messages, and we need to initialize it inline. Also, we need to decorate it with the sync object attribute, okay? Now I'm going to go here and add a public read-only list message and say messages. This is going to be an accessor for our players, and we're going to call this messages. It's just going to return an read-only interface wrapper for the sync list, so we can iterate over it, but we cannot modify it, okay? Then we're going to have a public void post message. The post message method is going to take three parameters: the date and time, so the time stamp, a string for the sender, and a string for the content. Then it's going to simply say messages.add new message, timestamp, sender, and content. That's pretty much it, but we need to decorate it with the server attribute, not the server RPC, but the server attribute to make sure that if a client tries to call this method, we get a warning. Now I'm going to go here and again add a public void remove or delete message. I'm going to take an int as the index of the message. So message index. I'm going to mark this as a server method 2. And here I'm going to say messages.remove at message index. And that's pretty much it for our chat class here. Let's go back to our player class and add two new server RPCs. The first one is going to be server RPC, server post message, taking in a date and time. So date and time, timestamp, and the string, which is the contents of our message. Why didn't I include the username here? Because it's basically going to be grabbed by accessing this value, and since it's a sync var, so there is no problem in accessing it from server RPCs. So here I'm going to say, let's just go here first and add a private chat, so reference to it, and we're going to override another method called onStart network, and this method basically is called once per object. So if you are a client, then it's called when onClient start is called, or before it. And if you are the server, it's called right after onServer start. Okay, so we're not going to do any checks here. Just we're going to say chat equals find any object of type. And we're going to say chat, and we're going to include an active. So this is going to just grab a reference to any chat object, in this case the only one on our scene, and include it if it's an active, just in case it doesn't initialize in time after we start our server. Now inside here, I am just going to say chat dot post message, and we're going to take the timestamp, our username, and our contents. Then we are going to go inside of, let's see, here, and add an onGUI method. We're going to check if we are not the owners. We simply return. Otherwise, we're going to iterate over the messages. So for int I equals 0, I is less than chat dot messages dot count I plus plus. Here I'm going to declare a variable called message of type message as going to equal chat.messages I. Now here we're going to do two things. First, we're going to check if, no, before this, we're going to say GUI layout dot begin horizontal, and I'm going to say GUI layout dot label, and I'm going to say this is just going to have our timestamp. So here, I'm going to say message dot timestamp, and we're going to format it as a full date. Then here I'm going to say message.sender, followed by a colon, then by a content, or sorry, the content of the message. Then I'm going to go here and check if the message.sender equals our username. This isn't really a secure way to check if the message is owned by this player, but it's basic and suffices for now. So if the sender equals the username, and there is a GUI button called delete here, delete here is pressed, then we're going to say server delete message taken the current index, and then we're going to say GUI layout dot end horizontal. Now let's go here, and first, since we have our HUD drawing before our player, we're going to need to add an offset here. So I'm going to say GUI layout utilities dot get rect, and say screen dot width and screen dot height times 0.25f or 125f. So this is going to take the eighth of the screen and just offset it so our buttons and messages don't overlap. Then I'm going to go after this and add a GUI layout dot text field, and we need to go up here and add a private string message content. String is going to be initialized to an empty string by default, and we're going to go here and say message content equals GUI layouts dot text field message content. We're going to say GUI layout dot begin horizontal and end horizontal. We're going to say if GUI layout button dot send, then post the message with the current date and time and our message content. Okay, then let's go down here and say server RPC private void server delete message, and we're going to take the message index, simply say chat.remove, sorry, delete message index. And that's pretty much it for our player component. Let's go ahead and go in Unity. Let's make sure to save everything. And let's go ahead and enter, oh, before we enter play mode, let's right click and create a chat component, sorry, game object, and add our chat component to it, the order, and just make sure that everything is set. Now let's go ahead and enter play mode now. We're going to say that our username is Gary, for example. He's going to host, begin typing some random things and sending them. So as you can see, we can send messages and delete them, which is amazing. Now let's go ahead and do a quick build so you can test both a server and a client, or multiple clients to be more accurate. Let's enter play mode here. Let's say that our username is Jack. Host. Before we join, let's send some messages. So hello. Oh, and send a couple. Then let's go ahead and clear the console. Click here. Say that our name is Gary B with a double Y, and just say join. As you can see, when we join, we see that our messages are present from the other client and that we cannot delete them because they are not ours. Now, if we delete one here, we'll see that the change is synchronized to the client. And when we send a message here, so say hello, now I can delete this message and it will be synchronized across the network. So that's pretty much it for our simple chat system. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Be sure to check out the description if you would like to support me and if you'd like to download the complete project, which is available for free. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.